It's early. There's a countdown. All right, we got to do this again, Keith.
Bet. Ready now?
Powered by Riverside.
Welcome to Get 'em Live, Breaking Bread. We have my co-host Samantha Roldan, and we have Showtime Keith.
What's
You
up?
see him everywhere. And today we're talking about finance. A lot of athletes go out there and do shows, but it could be a tax write-off. So Keith's going to give us some insight on that.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this at a very high level, a very simplistic level. That way, I keep y'all with me. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of numbers, bore you with a lot of definition and logistics. But in a nutshell, as you know, my name is Showtime. You might know me more in the bodybuilding community, in the fitness world. But my personal life, I am worked in the finance field for over a decade. I have a degree in finance and business administration, and I have a minor in economics and finance. And I'm almost done my MBA. And I have worked, as I said, over a decade in the financial field, from anywhere from mortgages to taxes, as well as a financial advisor for quite some time. Right now, I work in commercial finance. But to bring me to this disclosure, I am not your tax advisor. I am not your accountant. I am not a certified CPA. But I do know more than the average Joe, to say the least. And today we're going to go over the basics where I could try to. We always talk about how Showtime goes where the money is, and it got to make sense profitably for me to travel or me to even consider doing a show. I mean, I look at the numbers most importantly before I make any decisions on any commitments, because it got to make sense. And today we're going to talk about kind of how ways that you could kind of save money on your taxes by traveling for shows, especially if you're out there and you have clients that are personal trainers that you compete with, or that you are a posing client that you compete with some of your clients, as well as coaches, nutrition coaches that travel with their clients. These are very popular, easy ways of getting tax deductions. And we're going to go into that in more detail today.
Nice. So tell us, like, as an athlete, when you travel, tell us about the numbers. Tell us how you figure the numbers when you do your shows.
Well, for me, first I look at is how much my travel is, because besides, first, let me back up a little bit. The first question I ask promoters, how much is the prize money? I mean, a lot of promoters like to tell you everything about the show. So how much the prize money is. I mean, my trophies go to my mom's house. I don't even care about the trophies. They go to all of my mom's house. I was a college athlete. I was a track star and a football star. I got plenty of trophies and plenty of medals. How much the money is. Now, I mean, I do it not just for the money in the sport, because we all know that I am very involved in the sport, on and off the stage, in the community. So it's just, for me, it's not all about the prizes and the trophies. But I do want to make sure that I'm not losing money traveling, potentially. I want to make sure that I'm not setting myself up for a loss. If I am deciding to do that for a certain show in the community, I want to make sure I know that up front. So that's the first thing I do. I try to find out how much is the prize money, so I can kind of calculate potentially my profit and loss. Because if you think about the amount of money we spend on food and the amount of money we spend on our preparation for a show, that is expensive in itself. I can go to a show, have fun at a show, or support. But me to step on stage, that's kind of expensive for me as an athlete to do, because the expenses are kind of high in my diet preparation for a show. So that's the first thing I always ask is, how much is the prize money there? And then from there, I will look at the travel expenses regarding if I'm having to travel. For example, as we know, I just did the Florida Pro. That's a local show. It's a local show, so I don't have to I don't have to pay for airfare. I just have to drive 2 hours. I had to drive pretty much an hour and a half. And then my next consideration, do I take time off of work? If I travel for a show, I'm taking a minimum of 2 days off, because if I have shows on Saturday, I'm coming in on Thursday. Just so I want to be able to settle into a show. I don't want to have anything crazy when my plane's delayed or anything that stresses me out about a show. Keeping my mental focus is my main priority. Keeping my levels of stress low as possible. So I try to prevent that by coming in an extra day, then check in. Now with Florida Pro, to circle back to that show to talk about expenses, for example, for a local show compared to a travel show. For a local show, Florida itself is on a Sunday for pros. So in that case, then I'm thinking about PTO. That's the second thing I always consider for a show is the amount of time I have to sacrifice for PTO. You don't get that back. So you have to make sure that that time that you're giving up also equivalents to dollars. So instead of me potentially taking a vacation later on or using that time for something else to make a bigger profit, I have to consider that into my evaluation of my time off. You only get so many days off that's paid from work. So that is considered into my evaluation as well. With Florida being a Sunday show, I didn't have to take any time off from work. I could go right after work on Friday, so I have plenty of time Saturday to get myself prepared for Sunday. But that's just talk about a local show. Those are certain key factors that I first look at before I actually decide on committing to a show.
Now, I have a quick question, actually. Can you clarify, because I know we're talking tax write-offs, and for athletes that have their own businesses, that makes sense, right? Like if they're, let's say, already a posing coach or a nutrition coach themselves, then all of these things equate into that like calculation, right? But what if you don't have your own business? Like how do you factor in these types of expenses when, you're talking taxes, hobby versus profit, and actually making money towards like a sole proprietorship, or if you have like an LLC in your business? Like some of us have, bigger ventures when it comes to this, like websites and a big following and a lot of clients, and this is our bread and butter. And then some of us are just doing this in additional to our professional career like yourself. So does that play a factor into what you can and can't use when it comes to writing off things for shows and things like that?
Yes. So let's get right into the tax write-offs. So in the simplest term, when you're thinking about a tax write-off, you have to be providing a type of service. Mm-hmm. You have to be providing some type of service to that show, or some type of service in general for a tax write-off. If I'm going, for example, for a simplest term, I'm a posing coach, but I also have a team of athletes under the team Showtime that I may do consulting regarding helping them plan their schedule, helping them plan out their finances. I may do financial consulting for them as well. So that will also all go up under the umbrella under my brand of Showtime and 5. Because that is all considered to be a taxable for me, because that is my incorporated business of something that I'm providing service for. Now, in simplest term, now that we talk about in the standpoint of a posing coach or someone that you're traveling with, that regarding under your umbrella of athletes or under your umbrella of clients, or meeting with one of your clients, just even meeting with them, having a dentist business dinner with them before the show, or having an actual posing session, any type of service that you're providing that weekend regarding in your business, that will consider to be a tax write-off because you're providing a service. So you could write off your taxes regarding your expenses for traveling to that event. You can write off your expenses for the hotel for that night that you provided the service for. And you can write off if you had to talk about a meeting regarding consulting your financial schedule at dinner. You can write off that dinner, as long as nothing too luxurious or extravagant, because it got to make sense in the time of day. You can't be having a meeting at Ruth Chris if you don't normally eat at Ruth Chris with your clients. It has to be if you're looking at a client that you're dealing with real estate or something that makes sense regarding to have a luxury dinner. It have to make sense, because you can't outsmart the IRS. So, but if you're having dinner at the restaurant that's local, like a steakhouse or something that's like a Four Rivers or anything like that necessary, it falls upon that bracket. But those are just small points of views from a posing client. Now let's talk about if I was not traveling with one of my clients and I'm just traveling by myself under the Showtime brand. A lot of the times that promoters will use your brand to promote their shows. They will spotlight you as an athlete. As you've seen for the pro, I was a spotlight athlete. I have a Tampa show coming up where I'm a spotlight athlete for that. In that particular case, that you're providing a service for that show, but they're using you to promote and sell tickets for their show. So all my expenses for that show, and that the weekend that they have any type of affiliation with me, for example, the Saturday check-in where we have the athletes meeting. So my expenses for Saturday for my hotel stay and any expenses that I had on that day that's related to the show is a tax write-up event. I'm competing that day. You're advertising me to be on stage as your primary athlete. That is a taxable event. The money that I win from that show, I would have to include that in my taxes, because you do have to do some type of payment that you receive. I will have to include it in my payment.
Right.
So those are things that I would consider when I'm picking a show. And that's just from an athlete standpoint. If you are in, let's say you don't have an LLC and you don't have any type of posing clients, you don't have, you're not a dietitian, you don't work anybody prep, you can create an LLC just for yourself under your name as an individual. And I'm talking strictly about LLC, not limited partnerships. Right. Especially for someone that's even watching this video, more likely a LLC, a limited partnership, which is what I mean by LLC. Limited liability partnership will be most suitable for you. And they're very easy to set up and less expensive as well, and very easy to translate on a taxable document. But for that, now let's go back. We talked about a posing client. We talked about a diet nutrition. Let's say you're just your own brand and you do not have an LLC set up. You don't have anything set up for yourself to file taxes under. Then you have to set it up. There's no way, because you have to provide a service, no way to track it to where you can't just track it to yourself. It has to be some type of incorporated company. You can be your own company by being self-employed. By incorporating yourself as an LLC, as an individual, you could just put it on for example, you could be a consultant. I have one set up was on the Macintosh Consulting Services. Easy. Very basic as well as very general, but enough where it's specified about individual as me using my services. So if I don't have any clients or any particular shows, but they're using me as a spotlight, that still will fall up under their umbrella of my services that I'm providing to that show. So you could use that as a taxable event. And that's just to name a few before I go into other examples.
Right. That's the same thing with me. So anything that happens in terms of like shows, marketing, modeling is actually what mine technically is more classified under, because I do like brand modeling for EFX and things like that. So anything that they revolve in terms of photography from these shows or use as advertisement, it all falls under Sam's Fit Services too. So I'm very blessed and lucky to where as a woman in the sport, I can write off a lot more things like my tanning, my bikinis, the things that are specific in preparation for these events. But you're right, it's providing a service, so that's what I've done too.
Now, does that cover like when you buy supplements or you do like photo shoots and stuff like that? Does that cover that as well as an athlete?
For me, yes, specifically because I know like when I file my tax, what best describes my business is providing modeling services, because I'm more of like a brand model, if you will. So for me, yes, it may be different for Showtime, and everybody's, I'm sure falling under a different bracket here.
Showtime.
Oh, I think he froze. He'll come back to us. So for me, yes, I'm able to write off things like my photo shoots and stuff, because I also have a website. So anything that I revolve as content on my website that I pay for monthly that I use to promote and advertise for my business, yes, I can write off like for my photo shoots, anything that I wore in terms of like costume or wardrobe, the preparation, my hair and makeup for the day, things like that. Oh, we lost him. We're gonna have to get it back on.
Yeah, he'll come back. So now, what about meals? Your meals, like your meal prep and all that stuff. Does that cover all your meal prep up to?
I think it depends. For me personally, I was not able to write off like my meals. Like, yes, I have to stay in shape and things like that, but what I'm eating and nourishing my body with, no. Specifically, if it's like meals that I need for a weekend or an event that I'm going to, like per diem for the day, then yes, you can account for that food. Like let's say, I had to purchase my meals because I am being paid to be somewhere for, the supplement company that I represent, then yes, those meals specifically. Or like how Keith mentioned, if you're meeting with the client to discuss future plans, progress, like let's say you're, a nutrition coach or something like that. If you're meeting with the client and you're discussing their progress, then yes, you can write off that specific meal. But I don't know, Keith, I don't know if you heard that last question. You might be able to answer it a little bit better. Ernest was asking if you're able to write off actual prep meals throughout your prep for a specific show or your season. I told him no, that I wasn't able to, because that was what my personal tax advisor advised me not to do. I can write off meals, per diem meals for specific events, and also, meetings like you discussed, if you're going to dinner with a potential client, consulting for a client, actually maybe reviewing progress or things like that. Like there is per diem meals that you can write off. But that was my response. You may have a different perspective on this. And like I said, I think it probably varies from person to person and service to service.
Yeah, for meals, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't write off your groceries, even if it's preparation for a show, because of you can't write it off. But let's take it back a step. So let's talk about super basics. So when you're filing your taxes, there's ways of you filing your taxes very easy when you're self-employed. There's something that's called standard deductions. So for standard deduction, if you're single, let's say it's just you, no kids. I'm gonna give every scenario. I'm gonna give a scenario when you're just you, head of household, just you with an independent. So if you're claiming someone, and if you're filing jointly. So I'm gonna give you all those standard deductions. And what I mean by standard deduction, because the IRS allows you to take a standard deduction for up to a certain amount without itemizing everything that you have done, that you're filing for, yet you're taking a tax write-off for. For example, I don't have to keep, it would be nice, you should keep it for auditing purposes, but when I'm filing my taxes, I don't have to itemize when I put it on there, like I spent $500 for dinner. I spent $1,000 on travel. I spent this amount on my car miles, because you can write off your miles when you travel. So I don't have to do that if I stay within the standard deduction. So when you file singly, a standard deduction is $12,400. You have $12,400 that you could write off in a taxable year as a single independent. Without anything over that, you have to itemize exactly. Because they want to tell, at that point, they're telling you to prove it. In simplest terms, now it's telling me, prove it. I want to see everything now. So me personally, I keep my stuff under the standard deduction. Standard deduction. Mine might be legitimate, but I keep it under the standard deduction. Well, we're not trying to put me on the radar. Put me under the microscope. No. We're going to stay right up under here. The bar is here. I'm over here somewhere. So that's for individuals. If you claim someone, say you have a kid, or you claim independent, a person that you claim on your taxes, you could claim up to $18,600. And this is just something that you can actually claim and write off on your taxes. And I will make that simplest term. How do writing off your taxes benefit you? And I will go into that very soon as well. And so if you're married, you're at $24,800. So when you're thinking about food and all that great stuff for traveling, as long as you're under the $12,000, you're fine. You're under that standard deduction, you'll be fine. Once you try to go over it to get a bigger deduction, and that's when it becomes, you have to really look at your finances, look at your expenses. Like, do I have everything to prove that I have accomplished this? My phone overheated. We in Florida, that's why I connected. Sorry about that. But now, and I said now for a joint, if you're married, it's $24,800. So why is this important to know? So, and I'm gonna show you something. This is why they always say middle class gets screwed. And when you file your taxes, because you don't get as much back because you're taxed at a higher rate. And I'm gonna break it down very simple and very slow for you guys. When you're single, you don't even have to file your taxes if it's under 10 grand, unless it's under head of household. Head of household is under 40. It's under, I think, 14,600. You don't have to file a tax report if it's under that amount. You don't make enough money. In that case, you haven't earned enough money to be able to actually file taxes. It don't really matter at that point. You don't have to pay taxes in the standpoint. So regarding back to the IRS at the end of the year. Of course, you pay sales tax and everything else throughout the year, but you don't have to file an actual tax report. So someone is like the typical person that's older and retired, that's on just Social Security, trying to file a tax return. Now, that's when you're over the amount of 15,000 if you had a household, 10,200 if you're single, then you're taxed at a 10% rate. Now, the second level is 12%, not that much of a difference, 2% more. That's from, if you're single, it's $10,041. If you're single, 10,000. So that means if your gross income, let's say your salary, you make $40,000 salary, that puts you in a 12% tax bracket. And this is just going off of all gross income, not net income. We're talking about gross income. And I'll explain the difference very soon without being too boring. All right. Now, when we talk about, let's say if you're married, you file and you're at 12% when you're 20,000 to 83,000. 83,000, you're still at 12%. 83,500 to be exact. This is when the switch hits. now this is where the switch hits. Because now you're in the middle class. As soon as you go over, now you're more than the upper middle class. As soon as you go over that 83,000 gross, 500 and $1, you at 22%. You at 22% now. You're not taxed no longer at 12%. You get an extra 10% on taxes. Mm-hmm. You know the difference between you and the next person is only 2%, and they're being charged at 24%, but that person is making 178,000 to 340 if they're married, 170 if they're just single. And you're only making $83,501. They're making double your income, and you're taxed almost at the same rate. Now, if you make one less dollar, you're down 10% to 12%. Now let's calculate that in actual money and percentage for I can make this real for you. So if I'm looking at, I pay 12% taxes on 83,000. I'm only paying 9,000 a year in taxes. 9,000. All right, it's a big hit, but yeah. But when I go to 83,501.51, then I'm looking at over $18,000 in taxes. That is an $8,000 difference that you have to pay out, that you're losing in your income tax, that you have to pay out for that big difference if you haven't taken enough expenses out. The reason why tax deductibles are so important, let's say you're on that borderline where you had $90,000. And let's say you even at $100,000. I'm at $100,000. No, that's sorry. Let's break it back a little bit. Let's say I'm at $90,000. I'm at $90,000. And I write off. Well, you have to be around like 88. Let's make it simpler. I'm at $88,000. I'll write off that $12,000 reduction. Now that took me from the 22% tax bracket down to the 12% tax bracket with that standard deduction. So you just saved yourself $8,000 in taxes using that tax deduct because you have an LLC. I'm
50 pros.
Oh, he did froze right when it was getting good. We'll see if we can get it back without it completely kicking him off.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna text him.
Go
ahead.
You have an LLC, or what do you have? An LLC or corporation? What do you have?
Yeah, so I'm a sole proprietorship is what I kind of developed. This was in 19 when I did it. So it all just kind of, I actually started my website after I had already started that. Now I was 1099 at a job a few years ago where I was providing a service, and this was like nutrition, personal training. I actually worked at a school, but I was my own business and I was just paid a salary for my services together. So that's when I developed mine. So even after I got my website, everything just kind of fell under the umbrella. And I was lucky enough that when I started my business, all things listed under my business description kind of accounted for all the things that I have still continued to do. So I haven't had to make any real changes. Now, this has not been something that I have pushed to be extremely lucrative in terms of like trying to grow my business, trying to grow this massive empire that is Sam's Fit Services. I enjoy what I do in terms of marketing and modeling and things like that. My website is there for clients, posing clients, nutrition clients, programming, things like that. That's slimsexystrong.com. So if anyone hasn't been to it, wants to check it out, they can. But my bread and butter is, my hospital job. So I am more speaking to more where Keith was getting at with the tax bracket. There is my 9 to 5, essentially my hospital job, plus what I'm winning throughout the year with these shows, right? Because that's accounted for as income. And then there's things that I'm getting paid for. Like I am technically on EFX's payroll. They pay me a 1099 for the services that I provide. So all of these things add up towards my income at the end of the year. So these tax deductions are huge, which is why I do take account of them when I'm out, to add to his point. So everybody's situation is a little bit different, whether it's just your own business, individually. And then for me, like I said, this is additional to my 9 to 5, if you will. So sorry, Keith, you froze on us. It was just getting good. We had to kind of jump in.
Oh man, I'm in Florida. My room is hot right now for some reason. The light, the ring light. My phone's overheating. I've been on the go all day, so I've been taxing my phone too hard today. So I switched it to my laptop. So sorry, the quality is not the best. But to go over, as I explained before, that's why it's important to actually have some type of LLC. It's fun to have a hobby. That is 100% fun. There's nothing wrong with having a hobby. But if you can, and you're already in some type of way are doing more off the stage than just competing, in some type of way you are providing some type of service in this community, it is not that expensive to get incorporated. You could provide a LLC. I'm gonna speak from Florida because I can't speak for every county every state, because I'm not a tax advisor. But Florida only costs $125 to file for an LLC your first year. Now the renewal is a little bit more, but the first year is only at $125. To get an EIN number, what you would need. Can you still see me, guys?
Yes.
Your crew does not allow the recording. Please refresh and continue. Hold on, guys. Stay with me.
Uh-oh. I think he's trying to pull up something or maybe share screen or look into something for us. But poor thing. He's struggling with that. What about you, Ernest? Because you can speak on this too. You compete. You've got your Gunna magazine business, your entire corporation. So you're asking us, you can give us a little bit of insight too, because you are also a competitor. I'm sure that there's things that you can write off because, I know, for example, at the Florida Pro, you were all over it, the magazine itself. I'm sure that entire trip, was extremely beneficial in terms to your brand. So, like I said before, everybody's a little bit different as far as how this is going to work for them or benefit them. But we might got him back. Is he coming? You're out of the hot seat, perhaps. Nope.
All right, I'm back.
There he is.
All right, I apologize, but I'm having some technical difficulties over here. This is what happens when you're live. This is what happens. My computer said I'm not giving permission to record. It was doing some fun stuff, but this is why it's important. Like I was saying before, this is why it's important if you're providing any type of service in any way to just get an LLC, especially if you're costing yourself a lot of money that you might have been aware of it. You might have been aware that you could actually do a tax write. That's why this is for. But as I was explained before, any type of affiliation or any type of service you're providing that weekend, you have writable expenses that you can use a tax reduction for. And as I explained the importance of that tax deduction, especially if you're some athletes are married and they don't work. They don't work. They may not work. Sometimes this feels very demanding, especially our more older competitors. They may not work. So
it's only so much time you can go by where your significant other's like, hey, it's getting expensive. Hey, it's getting expensive. So your counter to that, people are like, well, I created an LLC. I mean, I am incorporated. So I'm actually helping us out because I'm lowering us our taxes. I'm lowering us our taxes. I'm giving us a tax deduction. So I'm lowering our taxes. Because that person they're not providing income, which can be good. I mean, or not enough income to actually file taxes, and they just use it as a dependent, which is good because at that point, I mean, they're not increasing their income they already have. But if you could write off, especially if you're married, you can write off $24,000. If you had the range of that kickoff range, we're about $100,000 for both of you guys. Joint gross income. This is when I say gross income, we're providing net income. Net income is after all your expenses. So you may make. This is after all your expenses, after everything comes out. I'm talking about gross income is before anything comes out of it. So if you have that gross income amount of $100,000 when you file your taxes that you made for the year, and you're going to be under that tax bracket easily when you file jointly, and you have someone that's self-employed, because then you can use a standard deduction of $24,000. Y'all still with me?
Now.
Yep, I'm listening.
Yeah, we now. I think you got to refresh your page. But so now, is it best to have a corporation or LLC, or does that even matter?
See, now we get more into tax advice. No, I mean, I'm not a tax advisor. I mean, we're not gonna say which one is better, LLC or S corporation, because there's a lot of different factors that goes inside of that. That's just it. For the average Joe, majority of people, 95% of people, even myself, I mean, LLC is most appropriate. The only time you will get more into that S corporation if you're having like employees in that point, or I mean, you're having more than just yourself.
Yeah.
So does that cover photo shoots and stuff like that?
If it's using it for a service for example, Samantha, she's a model. Yeah. So she's using that. She's, as you talked about before. Have you went through your spiel yet about your shows? How you can write off certain expenses regarding photo shoots, tanning, and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, and that's exactly it. So primarily, I get paid to revolve, this mug as the face of VFX Sports and All American Supplements. So they have paid for photo shoots that they pay for the photographer. I am there for a service. Anything that I have to put out in terms of, getting myself ready, if I need to get a tan, if I got to get my makeup done, get my hair done that day, the mileage of getting to the shoot, they're out of Bakersfield. If I'm driving to Bakersfield because we're recording content, I know here in California, it's like 53 cents a mile is what my deduction can be on that trip. So it's important to kind of document all of those things. And wherever they are now revolving that image or those images for, I can use as well. So they'll take sometimes images from shows and they will use them as content too. So all of that is proof that event that I did is now a service that they are paying me for. And I do make, a 1099 from them at the end of the year. So I'm very fortunate where there is a lot of things that kind of intertwine with bodybuilding, with modeling, and with the fact that I am a brand model for a supplementation and health company. So all of these things kind of come together. So like I said, for me, when I do my taxes, it is under modeling because it makes the most sense when it comes to my expenses and what I'm able to write off. So like if you're providing, let's say like a posing service, working with athletes in those ways, then, your Schedule C is going to probably fall under something different than modeling. It's going to be, brand management or consulting or whatever it may be. I know Keith says his is consulting, or he has a consulting LLC as well. So it all really just depends, I think, on what it is what the services that you're providing. So for me, a lot of the times and I can write off a lot of the things where it's just my body being present at a place and the things that I needed to do in preparation for it. So I'm lucky in that sense because this is expensive. So it comes into handy. luckily I have no dependents or anything like that, so I don't got to answer to anybody when it comes to my money.
Now, what about like expenses as far as like when you buy stuff like promotional stuff, like Showtime? You have like shirts and stuff say Showtime 5. Is that a part of the write-off because you use that as promo?
Yes. Can you add me in from my phone? Add my other link in. I just logged on.
From like a different. Oh, are we trying to get you on 2 screens here?
Yeah. Can you join me from the other screen? Mother.
All I see is one person on your invite.
Hold on, let me try to go.
Releasing him again. It's coming in and out.
Here it comes.
There it is.
All right, sorry. Hopefully it doesn't cut off on me again. My laptop quality was exactly funny. So now you asked me a question about Showtime in 5, and I'm able to write off the expenses from that. One thing good about Showtime in 5 is that it's all up under, especially because my corporation is called Showtime in 5. It's all up under the same brand. I mean, I don't sell a pill. I don't have a trademark just yet, so I'm not comfortable selling it. It's literally I give that out to anyone that's a part of my team. So it's something that I give out to anyone that's affiliated with the Team Showtime brand, either brand ambassadors or whatever. So I do get it out as for free. So that is a charitable expense for me that I could easily just write off all my expenses that I pay for my shirts or anything regarding quality or anything jackets or anything affiliated with Showtime in 5 or Team Showtime. I can write that off.
Because I know with me, mine's probably kind of complicated because I got the magazine, then I got a clothing line, and then also I compete as well. So my accountant see me coming in, he's like, "Oh man, I gotta cover a whole bunch of stuff." So that's what I'm trying to see. Go ahead.
I was about to say the Get 'em brand should really be all under one umbrella because it's just one company.
Oh yeah, it is. It's under Get 'em Incorporated.
Pretty easy to set that up. And one thing for people, if they may ask, like, how do I do my tax? I do my own taxes. I do it through TurboTax. Very inexpensive. I do it through TurboTax. I do pay for the self-employed option. That way it gives me a little more security, like for if I'm in risk of auditing or something like that, it'll let me know. I don't pay that much. I think I pay about $50, $70. And you may be paying your tax person like $200 to $500 or something like that, but some people may charge for the file taxes. For mine, it's very simplistic because I am just one LLC, very self-explanatory, self-employed company. I have other income sources outside of that regarding modern 1099 that I'm contracted to, but it's very easy to fill out. Even if you did DoorDash, you're technically self-employed at that point as well because you're 1099. So, or Uber or Lyft. To say that the reason why I bring it up is TurboTax has a bar. It has like a colored bar for red, green, yellow. It will tell you when you're in the danger zone. it will tell you when you're doing too much in your taxes. It will let you know, hey, you may have to have to all this. When that one turns yellow, that means like, hey, you may be in it'll say medium risk. Medium risk of potential. Anybody can get audited. I want to clarify that anyone can get audited. For the IRS purposes, I file all my taxes very, very legitimately. I can back any of my stuff up. IRS is everywhere.
You might be on this thing watching this now.
Not play with it. That's one reason you do not play with the IRS.
You're like Showtime Keith.
Yeah. Hey, this is all educational purposes. It's all educational purposes. It's all educational purposes. It's all legitimate information that you can easily Google. But disclosure, full disclosure there. But yes, the TurboTax, they have a radar gauge that when you're filing your taxes, they will tell you if you're at a higher risk of being audited. Mm-hmm. So while you're filing your tax, you can make those adjustments as you go through it. So, for example, if someone wanted to file their own taxes, I used to have somebody that filed my own taxes as well. I used to pay somebody to file taxes just because of of a time. It takes me a few hours to file my taxes. I'm not even gonna lie. It takes some time. And something that you want to do regarding getting money or anything with money at all, you want to take your time on it regardless. But especially if you're talking about taxes. So I do take my time with it. But I was forced to actually start filing my own taxes because my tax representative became more difficult to get in contact with, and sometimes my delays of communication wasn't always the best. So the relationship itself failed. I mean, this was no longer that relationship regarding taxes, so I started filing my own taxes. And it's really not that hard. It's like one of them things, once you do it, it's like, oh, it's not that hard. But
now which TurboTax do you get? Like, because I know they got a lot of different ones. Which TurboTax do you get?
No, TurboTax is at the point where they'll actually prompt in questions like, are you single? Are you married? Are you filing jointly? Do you have a business? They will ask you it's like ABCs. They will ask you the question that you would need to figure out what tax form is best for you.
Right.
Oh, I got you. So you do yours online versus buying the software and using that one? Like,
no, I just do it literally on TurboTax.com. I have a profile I can easily pull any of my previous years.
They got to pay you for this commercials, Keith.
I know, right? All right.
Got to contact them.
Giving out promos. So I want to go after anybody. Our TurboTax. But yeah, I know we come and crush on time.
Disclaimer.
Is there any other direct questions before I have any more problems with my connections? Was there any other question, a direct question that I could address for you guys that you could think of that I have not already answered already? Or anything you'd like me to go in more details about?
Not that I can think of.
Go more detail about for like you when you do your stuff, like when you travel, because you said you look at the figures. You look at the figures when you figure out a show. So tell us about that. Like, do you look and see like, okay, I make this much money from this show, so I'm making a profit a little bit or whatever. So I'll do this show, and this is not paying enough, so I don't do this show. Like, how you do your figures when you figure out what show you're gonna do?
Yeah. So for me, checking my phone temperature. For me, I spoke about the first time I asked is about the prize money. So, for example, I ideally won't fly unless I'm doing this show for favor.
Okay.
But then unless I have some of my expenses is covered. I mean, because some promoters, to get you there at that show, they will help. They understand that what comes with your brand. They will help. They may pay for your hotel. They may pay for your flight. They will help. I mean, I've done guest posing where they took care of things for me. I mean, but when it makes in that particular standpoint, then you can at just my expenses versus the profit. So, for example, I use one of my decisions that I had to make after Mr. America. I told myself before finals, and I debated about this at prejudgment. I told myself before finals, after prejudgment, I didn't feel too confident about the show. I'm not gonna lie. I thought I might have fell out of the top 5. I felt like my body was off that day. I felt it off. The routine, how it went through, I didn't settle right after prejudgment. So I didn't know how the show went. And I had a real good friend, Greg Jennison, NFL player, recently at that time was competing. He wanted me to come to National Olympia and compete with him. We talked about this. I committed to it. But then I was looking at my expenses. I looked at when I re-looked at the show, is in Vegas. Vegas is expensive in November. At that time, the show was a PNBA show. National Olympia is always a PNBA show. They never guarantee how much money that your prize money is. They ever guarantee it. They did have a promotion that they was doing that year that the biggest class get paid $10,000. I think first prize got $8,000, and the other two got split up between second and third. So, but you don't know where it's going to go into that day of the show. You don't know because until all the final people are registered and everyone's at the show, you don't know where that prize money is going. So the Vegas trip for flight, hotel, you're looking at easily $1,500. Easily a $1,500 trip. So I told myself, because at that time, Miss America was giving out $5,000 first prize. I said, if I win the show, thinking that money be here in time for me for National Olympia, even though it wouldn't from the time they pay their athletes. I was thinking like I will go to National Olympia to compete there if I win that show, because then I have some income that eventually will come in to help me support my expenses, potentially to add to my prize money that I win at that show. So, but I said if I didn't win, let's say if I fell out of the top 5, it's time for me to go in the off season. That means I'm wherever I thought I was at, I'm not there. Because you're among the best. You literally had 18 of the best athletes in America from all over at that show, that particular year. You was the best of the best that was there. So if I wasn't there in top 5, then for me it's probably going off season. But I said if I make in the top 5, I'm gonna go to USBF United States Championship. They had a $5,000 prize there that was guaranteed. $5,000, $3,000, $1,000 for third. So I came in second. I made my phone call. I told Greg, unfortunately, I won't be able to make this. I told him prior. I called him actually before finals, so he already knew. I called him before finals. So, but after that, I told my friends I'm coming to Minnesota. I told my team, my support system. I had a lot of friends in Minnesota that I never get the chance to see. It always comes down to Florida. I told them I'm going to Minnesota. I bought my flight. My flight round trip to Minnesota November. I think it was like $70. I think it was like $70. I think my friend bought my flight.
Paid to go to Minnesota. It was ridiculous. I just a photo shoot was in Minnesota. That flight was outrageous, and I got stuck spending 2 days in the airport. I had like 6-hour layovers each day. You know,
this year's crazy. This year's a little crazy with the flights. Normally November because it's cold, nobody really travels there, and Minnesota's a hub. Like all the Midwest flights kind of go out in and out of there. So we come from Florida International. I mean, it's normally pretty decent. I looked pretty recently, not too bad. I think they're around like, I don't know, like they still affordable, like 200, maybe under 200, but it was around like $70 at that time. I'm like a no-brainer.
Wow.
I'm like no-brainer. I'm coming. So I went, and that's how I decided to choose that show, because you got to think I'm only spending then my hotel, because hotels are less expensive. Instead of you staying on Las Vegas Strip, I'm not even staying at Venue Hotel. Oh, no. I'm staying at Mall of America. I'm not trying to leave to go outside just in case it's cold, unless I got to compete.
Yeah.
So I was staying at Mall of America. I had a 5-star hotel, and I still only paid three something for 2 nights. I think I stayed at the Radisson Blue. And I will be staying there again this year. I stayed at the Radisson Blue, and I think I paid $300 and something for 2 nights. 3 nights, because I always fly. I flew in on Thursday, and I stay all the way to Sunday. So you can't. It was under $400. I believe it was under $400 for my hotel flight. You can't beat that. So my total cost is $500, not including the registration or whatever else I got to pay, which is probably a couple $100 more. But I say I'm under $1,000 for expenses for a show. I got a $4,000 profit from me doing this show. So that's how I look at it when I'm thinking about shows. I mean, but if a show's only $2,000 and then I don't have to pay for my hotel or flight, then yeah, I'm in the positive. I can still make $1,500, whatever, especially if I don't have to take no time off, or I only have to do a half a day off. It depends on what day the show is. But that's how I kind of look at it. I kind of evaluate how much time I take off for PTO, because you have to sacrifice your personal time, and how much it's going to cost me to travel to that show. Those are things that I consider right away that I have to calculate. That's why I always make it pretty publicly. That way I could try to train and teach other people in the industry that we compete that, man, you got to ask these questions. A lot of people show up to shows not even knowing that they only paying first prize.
Right.
Man, I'm a pretty solid athlete, and I always ask, what's the first, second, and third place prize money?
Right.
Because I'm never expecting to win every show. I never expect that. I mean, I perform very well, and I will be in the top, hopefully. I mean, I feel like I'm an elite athlete, but I'll never say I'm going to just win it. I never calculate my budget off me winning. I calculate my budget off of what if I take third? How much money I'm getting? Am I losing money or I'm still gaining money? If I took third, I'm at $1,000. I probably would have broke even. Not including all this money I spend on Showtime gear, Team Showtime gear that I provide for free as to give back to the people that support me at my shows. Just for like a goodie bag. I give like a personal Team Showtime goodie bag out. That I have to also calculate all those expenses when I do a show.
That brings me to my next question. The team. Now, what if somebody have a team and they fly their team out to a show or to compete, or they pay for their expenses? Can they use it as a write-off as well because they're paying for their team?
Well, yeah, if you're flying with your team, then yes, especially if you're like their diet coach, like your nutrition coach. Like for example, Team 2020, he's their actual nutrition coach for all of them. Like he's their nutrition coach. He's handling their diet throughout the whole trip. So his travel for that show is paid for. It can be a write-off. His hotel could be a write-off. Him, not them, unless they have some type of incorporation like their model or their 1099 somewhere else. They're a personal trainer. The gym promotes them as a professional bodybuilder. Then they can use expenses of that type of way to tie in to those expenses because you're advertised as a professional bodybuilder and you're tied to that. In some type of way, you're providing some type of service. At the bare minimum basics, you got to be providing some type of service. So that's the only way you can make it make sense when you're filing your taxes.
Oh, okay. Well, shoot, man.
But for me,
think about it for this. Go ahead. But for
you,
for
me as a team, I mean, a lot of my teams like brand ambassadors. I mean, I have some posing clients, but a lot of my team, if I'm doing some type of consulting, yes. Like I talk to them about their schedule, how we're going to do your show. I mean, what's next show season? Like any type of schedule consulting out, yeah, that's considered. But any business that I conduct that day, so my flight easy, taken care of. Hotel the day that I have my meeting with them, or I consult with them, that's taken care of. But the next day for the show, no, that's not going to take care of. Because then that time you dip into your personal time at that standpoint. Let's say you go into a show vacation, and let's say they use Samantha as the prize athlete for it. So for Friday and Saturday, Friday she has to check in with them. She has check-in time, athlete meeting. Saturday she has the show. Both of those days would count into her write-offs. Let's say she stayed an extra 2 days, Sunday and Monday, for personal time. That would not count. Her hotel stay, her dinners, anything she have affiliated with that next 2 days will not count as a taxable event because there's no services being involved that's provided no longer to that show or benefiting anyone in that standpoint but herself. So that will not count. But those first 2 days, oh yeah, you in the money, you in the green. But the next 2 days, that'll be considered as personal time, and that do not count as a taxable event.
Do you be in the red? Maybe looking at you.
Yeah. I mean, just play it safe. And then one more nugget before I leave. The IRS, they have something when your first year you file an LLC. So you sign up after this phone conversation. I want to do my LLC after I got this. You saw this video. You start going into the process of creating your LLC. They have startup costs. So everything you have paid for, like your application, everything that leading up to you doing this, the startup costs, you can all lump that into it. LOA understands that you're going to take a loss the first year. That majority of business take a loss the first year. So they understand that if you come in negative by $3,000 or what's the minimum again? The standard minimum is $12,000. So you come in the minimum, if you're taking a big loss of $10,000 or whatever, your first year, $5,000 your first year, it's acceptable. It's susceptible. It's susceptible because they know it's going to take you about at least 3 years to get up and running before you actually make a profit.
Right.
Then your tax person, even TurboTax, will warn you on that third year, on your second year, like next year, the third year, you will be more on the radar.
They're waiting on their money.
Yeah, you'll be more on the radar if you found that boy 3 years in a row, and you still not making no money. That's it. You better think of a new business plan.
Yeah, I think you got to put hobby versus business. Then don't you? Like your third year, if you don't make money,
you just can't claim it.
Oh, you can't file it.
You just can't.
Oh, okay.
It wouldn't be recommended.
Fell off at that point.
Yeah. It wouldn't be recommended. At that point, you should take a year off and restructure your business plan. And to see how you're going to proceed further for the following year. At that point, if you're that's after your year 2. So before year 3 comes up, you should be already okay. I got to change some things up. I got to find them because it's just going to be a hole where you can just write off money. Obviously, they give you that grace period. They give you that grace period because understanding as a human being, everyone just can't be profitable for the first year to start a business. I started a business today. I started a clothing line. No one knows my clothing line. Team Showtime. Community knows it, but no one really knows that. If I go start to sell that thing on buy like 1,000 copies, and try to sell on Amazon, I'm gonna take an L. more than likely, because no one it doesn't have that awareness out there yet. There's no brand recognition. There's nothing out there to solidify that brand. So, and people understand that it takes a couple years for business to get on its feet. But that's what I'm gonna leave it with that. I got a meeting up, come back, I get back to work. But before I do go, any other questions?
That's it. We'll save the rest of it for the next show.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Hopefully, I answered all y'all questions. If y'all can have anything, y'all can DM me a little bit. Don't be coming to my DMs, ask me a whole 1,000 questions. I'll give y'all. I'll have a little conversation. I'm about to be out here just giving out free consulting. I got my second half of the season about to start up, but I will answer any questions that I can within reason.
I got to hit me up in November.
Yeah. After my last show, November 19th, I'm gonna have a long off and we can talk as much as you want about taxes after November. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.